Hey David, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I am doing good. So today we're going to talk about something very technical, which is custom post types, custom fields, which is a scary enough topic for a lot of WordPress users. Before we get into that scary territory, why don't you give your a quick introduction about your online life, like what you've been doing for last 5, 6, 10, 20 years?
Yeah, I've been at it for a while. I actually went to university and got my degree in anthropology.
Mm-hmm.
And when I graduated, there weren't any jobs for anthropologists.
Okay.
So I was working in the public library system in Miami, and there was that was right when the internet was coming in. So I helped put the internet in and made their first website. And that was kind of my first exposure to creating websites. That was back in the mid 80s.
Wow.
And uh, public library is a great place to work because you're helping people all day long,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't pay very well. And I had a young family. So we moved to the Midwest, and I worked for an enterprise software company, Sterling Software, doing database query and reporting tools. And I started off there doing tech support, and that was my first IT job. And then moved into doing network admin and database admin. And then I got a job with a event photography company, Marathon Photo Grad Images. They photograph, people when they graduate from high school and college. And Marathon Photo photograph marathons and road races. And so I was IT manager there and made their websites. And then we used web technology for the internal programs too. We were using Cold Fusion.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, how I slowly got into WordPress was that uh, at the time, the races, the marathons were creating their results books. They were printing them, and it was very expensive and took a long time. And so we started creating, we had all the pictures and all the timing information, everything. So as a service to them, we started creating CDs for them, finished CDs
Mm-hmm.
that they could give to all their participants, with their, pictures and results and everything. Well, that turned out to be time consuming and expensive for us. so, um, so I got tasked with turning that into websites, to web pages, doing that on the web. And we have been using Cold Fusion, and Cold Fusion, wasn't doing so well, in this, popularity and whatnot. And so I chose Drupal to do that.
Oh man.
And they have something kind of like WordPress multi-site.
Yeah.
And so each race, would have its own site. And I did that. And, I learned Drupal 7 and how to create modules and do the PHP programming and everything. I liked it a lot. But then Drupal decided that they were going to go with Drupal 8, and they were going to kind of everything start over again.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going, oh my goodness, if I'm going to start from scratch, do I want to go Drupal? So I checked out WordPress and, fell in love with it because, it's so flexible.
Yeah.
And uh, so anyway, that's how I got kind of to WordPress. And then I got into, interested in custom post types.
Yeah, because you mentioned in the podcast prep document that I'm interested in custom post types and custom fields, etc., like the handling of custom data. Now, thing is, this is a very complicated topic coming from like I'm viewing this from a WordPress beginner or even an intermediate. Like lot of people would just stay away from this topic, but you are like more interested in this topic. Why so? Why?
Well, I kind of have a database love a database background. I was a DBA for a while, and
Uh-huh.
to me, it just makes sense to map the content types to the database.
Exciting, right?
Yeah, and yeah, we get our excitement, our thrills. And the Drupal actually has that functionality all built into core, a GUI for doing it and for showing the fields and everything. So one of the first things I did when I was checking out WordPress was, how am I going to create the custom post types? So from the beginning, I was, it was kind of my first research there. I think maybe I researched how to do backups and
So how did
things like
you
that first.
how did you make your first custom post type? Like, which method did you use? Because there's so many methods now. There are like little less methods because a lot of people are concentrating on those specific methods. But if you're like on a beginner stage, you will be bombarded with all kinds of methods.
Yeah. Well, in the Drupal world is very anti-money, paying for things. They don't, they really discourage that very heavily.
WordPress loves money.
And WordPress was a lot more open, the freemium model.
Yeah.
And but anyway, I found Pods, and I was thrilled, and because it was open source, and and it allowed you to make the custom post types and everything. And I started kind of digging into it, and this was a while ago, and it just had some rough edges.
Yeah.
And so I got kind of discouraged with Pods, and I came across Toolset. And I think you're smiling because you know that I like that, but I'm a Toolset fan. But I think that maybe the founder of Toolset may have come from a Drupal background as well, because there's some similarities. And anyway, that was my first foray into creating.
So you used Pods, right? So you used Pods.
I used Toolset. I was researching. I tried Pods, but then the first site that I built, it was.
And this was how many years back?
Oh gosh, a while.
Yeah, because at that time, Pods was really, kind of a starter idea. Even Toolset wasn't what it is now. Like it was like all over the place. Everyone was finding their feet. Like Toolset also, like they had gone through a lot of changes in recent times. Also, they've actually pulled off their plugin from the WordPress repository, and they're going all premium, which makes sense because when you're serving something niche, and having a free plugin is like inviting free support, which is difficult, especially when you have a thing like custom data. So it was Toolset for you, right?
Yeah, it was Toolset.
And you did not explore because a lot of users traditionally, like in the beginning, like now we are getting more comfortable using plugins for specific things, but earlier, like few years back, it was put and fed in our head like you should use code to do things. Even in WordPress, like even for registering custom post types, a lot of people just used manual code. Even today they use it, but that code is generally generated by plugins itself, like ACF, you export the code and etc. But at that time, not many people was too excited about using plugins. They were like, oh, I'll just generate my own code. I'll just write my own code for custom post types. That is another reason why those plugins did not grow that much, because a lot of, the wave was in, just like page builders, like everyone hated them.
Yeah, exactly.
Now everyone loves them. So you didn't felt the, inclination of using that manual code method?
Well, the fly in the ointment of the manual code method is when you want to make changes. I've seen, when I was using Cold Fusion back in the day, and I would be in Cold Fusion forums, and people would say, what should I use to build websites for my clients? And people were saying, just like you're saying with page builders, people were saying you should do it by hand, custom, custom. And I was sitting there going, no, you've got Drupal, you've got WordPress, you've got other,
And people,
Microsoft had some.
who's this guy?
Yeah, Microsoft had some things. It's like you spend so much time doing it, from scratch. So I was already kind of a convert to, using a GUI is not a bad thing, so.
So in the beginning, you explored pods, you explored toolset, and toolset was your tool of your choice to, register custom
Yeah.
post types. But fast forward in current times, besides these two, there's so many other solutions like Metabox, Themify, Post Type Builder, Toolset. We've already discussed Crocus Block Suite, and I'm sure I know a lot of plugins which do that, but I really don't know their names. So in current times, is toolset still your go-to choice for registering custom post types, or things have flipped around?
I'm still using it. The advanced custom fields is very well coded and has a very nice, beautiful UI.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of respect for that. I've played around with Metabox and done some research for it. I think it's kind of more for hardcore coders.
Yep.
Pods has a lot going for it.
And it has improved a lot over a period
Yeah.
of few years. They've added a lot of critical features. And it is
They've
one
got,
of those shiny plugin. Firstly, it's free, but it does both the things like custom post types and custom fields. And plus, it's supported by WordPress indirectly. Like they fund it by donation. So there's a sense of security that they won't vanish the next day.
Yeah, I think, and they're great people on the team.
Yeah.
And, things like Bernard created this plugin to hook pods up with Beaver Themer. That was brilliant. The one thing that, I've seen, when I was working for the photography company, it was bought and, did acquisitions and sold a few times. And the one thing I noticed was that, there were some really smart people who did programming for me, and they had this very, very functional, very lots of good features and everything, but they were developers and programmers, and so they didn't care so much about how beautiful it was.
Yeah.
And so I kind of learned firsthand that people often make decisions based on, like the first cut often is how good it looks.
Yeah.
Because you're going down a list of features and you say how good it looks. And so I think if there's any fault with pods, it's that they're like me and like the functionality, it's like practical. If it works, then it's good,
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't be surprised to see pods, just kind of slowly and steadily increase in market share, because it's just got a lot of good going for it.
Yeah. And you coming from database background and you got introduced to custom post types in WordPress, but WordPress already has two standard default custom post types, which is post and pages. So whenever you build a website, how do you decide that that specific content needs to go in a custom post type as against in a normal post or page post type?
That's a tough question. And part of it, that kind of bias that you were talking about with, like with page builders and other things. I think there's been a little bias that for a while people thought you should use posts and pages as much as possible and not use custom post types.
Yeah.
And I think that, I think there is some, if you get too many custom post types, I think it could, on your site, it could have a performance penalty. But generally, Justin Tadlock did some articles when WordPress first had support for those. And and kind of his wisdom was, if you can keep things organized with using categories and tags, that's kind of that's preferred, but when you get to the point where categories and tags aren't enough to keep things organized, or you have custom fields that you need to add, enough, more than one or two or something, get to the point, then it makes sense, I think, to use a custom post type.
Cool, because whatever you mentioned, like people generally, emphasize on the fact that you should use default post and pages if possible, rather than going for custom post type stuff. But then in current times, I don't know, with better servers, powerful servers running your WordPress, it doesn't affect that much. At least you don't see that on a surface level that much, because those times of shared super cheap shared hostings are gone now. If you're building something complex, obviously you will go for a high power hosting service. Now that was for custom post types. Let's switch to custom fields. Now there are so many solutions for custom fields: ACF, pods, toolset. Now, should my choice for custom field be dependent on the type of custom fields that I need? Because all these solutions provide different types of custom fields. But before you answer that, which is your favorite tool for custom fields? I'm sure it's toolset.
If I was just going to have custom fields, adding them to posts or pages, I'd probably go with advanced custom fields. But since I usually have post types with it, custom post types with it, then it seems to make more sense to go to an all-in-one solution for me. One tool. So I usually go with toolset. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
I'm like a broken record when it comes to that. But I think if I was just adding, ACF has, like the repeater fields are really nice.
Yeah.
And, so I've seen some, there's a lot you can do with that quickly. And a lot of tools have support for ACF. And actually, if you look at the install numbers, ACF probably has as many or more active installs than all the other tools put together.
So if your project requires a custom field type that is not there in toolset, but that's there in ACF, do you make a switch?
I haven't ever had that situation. There, one of the things that the toolset team has said is it's easy for us to add custom fields, but they don't do it very often. And I think part of the problem is that it's because they're a suite. So if they add a field to types, like a whatever, like a rating field or something, then they have to support it with their views and their forms plugins as well. So it's not really so easy for them to add them. That said, I think that you can, toolset and pods, both, I think you can manage custom fields created with other tools.
Yes, you can. Now, you use toolset because you register a custom post type and add custom fields both from one tool. Now, consider a scenario where you do not have any custom post type and you only are required to add custom fields in existing default post or pages or custom post type that have been registered via other plugins. Like if you install WooCommerce, you get a products custom post type and you want to add few fields just to the products field or to the post field or to the default pages. Now in that case, which tool do you use? You still stick to the tool set?
Oh, no. I'd probably go with advanced custom fields or maybe pods, but probably with advanced custom fields.
Yeah, I've done it a lot of times with pods and it works really well, especially the WooCommerce one. Like you can add really, fancy, depending on the project requirement, but you can add few extra fields in a product post type of WooCommerce and, output them. Because earlier, the biggest problem, which is a next focus thing, is like, adding custom fields is easy, making custom post type is easy, but the real problem comes when you got to output the data in the form of a template. Like historically, that has been a biggest pain point. Now things are like little different. Like you don't have to manually code templates, and it's more easy. So what is your preferred method? Like when you register a custom post type, add a custom field, how do you output that data? Like what is your front end tool set for, showing the data in the
Uh-huh.
front end?
Well, I think you found the fly in the ointment there. That is the big barrier of entry for new users,
Exactly.
coming to WordPress, and because you'd have to do a PHP template. Toolset has views, and
And
it was kind of a
and when you say PHP, why PHP? I'll better go to Squarespace, right?
and but Toolset has grown up kind of like a coral reef. It's got
Yeah.
layers and layers, and for they tried an experiment, or they went on a path. They created a plugin for their suite called Layouts, and it didn't catch my imagination. I don't know if it caught other people's imaginations or
Wasn't
not.
it called Views?
No, it's called Layouts. That was there. It was like a layout builder.
Okay.
And that was Views was first. When I started, Views was what they had, and then instead of making Views better, they started this layout to try to compete.
And they do have views, right?
Yeah, I use Views, but the real groundbreaker was Beaver Themer. That was a genius plugin, because it does 90% or of what
Yes, 100%.
Toolset and it does more. It does what most people need, and it's easy. And if you know how to use Beaver Builder, you know how to use Themer. So that and I think Beaver Builder was probably the first builder without short codes, and
They do have
Themer.
They do have one or two official shortcodes to show the templates, but that's about it. Not the messy shortcodes, which we are
Yeah.
so, which is so popular with certain page builders, which we are not going to name.
Yeah, it's yeah, they didn't use short codes to do the layouts, and so I think that raised the bar for across all the the whole ecosystem, and Elementor then in their Pro, they added some builder functionality, which is easy to use. You have some templating, and it's easy to use. It's not as I think Beaver Themer has some features that are more developer friendly.
Yeah, Beaver Builder overall is more developer friendly because it has really modular code. Now I'm saying that from my interaction with other developers who have developed, add-ons and modules for Elementor as well as Beaver Builder. So I'm just taking their view, and a majority of them have said that it's easier to, extend Beaver Builder as compared to other page builders. Now, I was coming to that. Like for Beaver Builder, we have Beaver Themer. Like it can do anything actually. You can build from head to foot the whole website, and you can have all the kind of complex templates, be it single post types or custom post types. But what about non-Beaver Themer, non-Beaver Builder users, especially a user who doesn't use Beaver Builder, who doesn't use Elementor? Elementor also has certain templating features for showing custom data. But what is the solution for someone who is not using either of them?
Well, I was saying that Toolset, it kind of languished for a while, but they just released a beta where they're now allowing you to build your templates using Gutenberg. And I played with the beta. It's pretty nice. It's the first time I've actually used Gutenberg. I've tested it, but it was, it didn't appeal to me. I didn't feel it was ready. So it was the first time I had a reason to check out Gutenberg, I think. The problem with, well, it's not a problem, but, with views is you have to use Bootstrap and HTML and CSS and maybe some JavaScript when you create a view.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, it's like a power user, at least, it's not something a new person could do, I think. And so, Toolset is developing something that could be pretty good. There's some other page builders. Brizzy has some templating. It's a little buggy, I think. It's still in beta.
Yeah.
And then there's Oxygen has some templating, and
they both are
those
catching up, I guess. They both are catching up.
Yeah. Now, Elementor has support for pods and Toolset and advanced custom fields. Beaver Themer does also. And so I think, those are, Beaver Themer, Elementor Pro, and Toolset are probably the main choices.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Okay, let's get a little more technical now. A lot of people just scratch the surface, and it's custom post type, custom fields. But there's something called conditional logic. Like once you have a lot of custom fields, you can develop a relationship between them to output a data in a certain specific filterable format. Now, when you have to set up a website with advanced conditional logic, and you got to implement that not just in the back end, create the structure of custom fields, and relationship, but also to make it workable in the front end, options are restricted to Beaver Themer, pods, and Toolset. Like if you've developed a website with a little complex conditional logic, which tool was your preferred choice so far?
Well, I think that Toolset has conditional logic, and it has filters, for sorting and filtering on the front end built in. Beaver Themer is easy to use, and it has conditional logic. And again, like you said, it's very developer friendly. So in terms of conditional logic, I think Beaver Themer is the easiest one to use, probably. Toolset is not as good, and it has the filtering on it. I haven't actually used conditional logic with pods. Have you?
Yeah, it allows you, but not to a very complex level, just on a parent level, to be honest. And I've not actually used in a very sophisticated manner. It just I think the last site, maybe 6 months back, I did a site of it was directory of dogs. Like then you have to match the things like this breed, this age, male, female, and then you got to show the search results. Obviously the basic structure was done in pods, the custom fields and all that stuff, and it had custom taxonomies there to help set up the relationship. And the page was created using Beaver Themer, but the problem came when you have to show that filterable search box. Now there's no out of the box solution as far as Beaver Builder is concerned to show that. So I used that plugin, search and filter plugin, to display the search thing. And there's another plugin which is more sophisticated. I'm forgetting the name of that plugin.
Revelancy or something?
Yeah, exactly, that one. But these that plugin is a little heavy on your site. Like it does fire up a lot of queries, but if you're looking for something very custom and very user friendly to search through the data, I think that plugin, and on a very basic level, search and filter is also very good. Like
a good choice.
Yeah, and it both these things like pods, Beaver Themer, and that search and filter, these three plugins were enough to build the solution for a dogs directory where people had to search the dogs by their breed, male, female, and then color. They can match these combinations, and these combinations were implemented via custom taxonomies. But why? Firstly, it's easy, and secondly, it's easy for the client also to add a new dog, because when they add a new dog, they can select the male, female, instead of selecting it from custom fields. They will have a custom taxonomy, and they will just tick mark whether it's a male or female. And we have pre-filled breed also listing, like we have 20 breed listing were already there, so when they add a new dog, they can just click on the breed rather than having to type something new. So that was easy actually. So even we've not even talked about custom taxonomy, which is another monster in this whole thing. Like a lot of people would not understand that, but
yeah.
So how has been your experience in using conditional logic and implementing in the front end?
Well, I've used Toolset for that with views, and it was surprisingly easy for the most part. There, if you use like a checkbox, it's a little tricky, and I had some trouble with that and the Toolset support, because usually, you put in 0 for false, 1 for true, Boolean field, techie. And they said to leave it blank for false, if you to do, the conditional logic. And so that was kind of counterintuitive to me. But once I got that once I learned that, it was pretty easy to do.
Okay, so bottom line, which is the best tool to do things that we're talking about? Custom post type, custom fields. My vote obviously goes for pods. Which tool gets your vote?
I think that
I know the answer.
Well, actually, you might be surprised because I think it depends on who you are and what you want to do.
Okay.
It's like the page builder. The one we haven't talked about too much. Themify has a post type builder.
Yep.
Which is really easy. It's easy to create your custom post types, and it's easy to create the templates. But someone who's like, an agency or a freelancer who's, so for one, if you wanted to just do that for your own site, that might be a good choice. It's inexpensive and whatnot. If you're going to, Beaver, if you're using Beaver Builder, then probably Beaver Builder, Beaver Themer, and Pods is a good choice.
So if you're using Elementor?
If you're using Elementor, Elementor doesn't have support right now for relationship fields for pods, for related post types.
Okay.
So you have to use a third-party, tool. Was it Anywhere Elementor or something like that? Or,
yep.
I don't know. Anyway,
it's sort of like Beaver Themer, kind of like little light.
Yeah, and so you have to add in extra tools to make it work. There are a couple of solutions. Like I think you mentioned in the intro, Crocoblocks has some things, and but so it depends on if you need relationships. Then you're going to have to go Pods or Toolset, I think. If you, what I'm doing now is I'm trying to use Toolset. Toolset you can use with Beaver Builder. You don't need Themer because you're using Toolset to create your custom post types and your templates. So
and talking about templates, have you used Pods to create a template using their smart shortcodes?
It's even a little more trouble than using views. you can do it, and it works well, but I think you have to know your CSS and HTML and whatnot.
Yeah, you
And
need to wrap it in a proper div and make sure you close it because it's
yeah,
completely manual code.
yeah. So I think it's really good that it has that. And I think if pods followed kind of the toolset lead and let people make templates using Gutenberg, the block editor, it would be killer. That would be like so easy for people then, I
We
think.
might see it because Gutenberg is still baby. Let it go to kindergarten.
Yeah. Yeah.
Still people don't like it, but that's given. That's the future. Like obviously it's improving, but still when you go and use it, you feel a little lost. Like where have I come? Like the UI of Gutenberg does need a little overhaul. Like it's too confusing, to be honest.
Yeah.
You don't know what these small icons that they have, what they mean. They've got a bar on the right side, they've got a bar on the left side. Firstly, they should drop one bar and just stick one thing on one side.
Yeah, it seems like it could use a lot of refinement, and I hope that they do that.
Yeah,
It,
I seriously hope that.
it's disrupted the I think the plugin market quite a bit. It's a little bit of a threat to page builders, not so much yet, but it could be in the future.
But I
And a
think
lot of
they will
yeah,
evolve, I guess. Gutenberg can never do what Beaver Builder plus Beaver Themer is doing now, at least for next 2 years, because that kind of functionality requires a lot of development time, to be honest. And by the time they reach there, they will leap forward to something else, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
I think you're right.
So talking about, the conditional logic, custom data, WordPress is a good solution, but sometimes when you're building it on a higher level, when it's more complex, is it better to choose a different platform other than WordPress?
I think when you get to the enterprise level,
Mm-hmm.
you need things coded for you. Like if you have like an accounting department and a customer service and an orders department, an order website, you want them all integrated in together. And the way we kind of do things in the WordPress world is, you use WordPress for everything you can, and then you buy a deal on AppSumo, for a help desk. And
oh man,
you would
everyone's
have,
favorite.
maybe you find some accounting solution somewhere else, QuickBooks or whatever you use. And when you're up on a big scale, like you're in millions of dollars of revenue or something, it doesn't cut it. I think obviously WordPress.com is a huge site, so you can scale that way, in terms of supporting a lot of sites, a lot of visitors. But I think it would be a lot of work to integrate all the functionality that an enterprise needs.
So answer is not always toolset. Answer is not always WordPress, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's change our topic focus and shift to your toolbox. So what are your 5 current favorite tools that power your online business?
Well, I'm not going to mention the one I've already mentioned 100 times.
Toolset number 1. Okay, let's proceed to number 2.
Let's put that one by. In terms of non-WordPress, I use Stencil.
Mm-hmm.
It's a platform where you can create graphics and things. It's pretty simplistic, but that's about my artistic level.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're a Photoshop user, and so. But anyway,
Photoshop people are royal. They don't think these tools are actually tools.
Yeah, yeah. And then I use Content Studio for posting to social media.
Mm-hmm.
I like that because it lets you preview, the output, and you can customize it for each platform at this, do it at once. So
Was that AppSumo grab?
I think that was a Facebook group had that one. It wasn't. Maybe it came to AppSumo, later, but
Okay.
I got it on a Facebook group. I use MainWP for managing multiple sites.
Cool.
What are you using?
I don't manage sites now. I'm done with
Oh, you're
it.
not. Yeah.
Yeah, I've
So
fired all my clients, but guess what? I may be coming back to it. I don't know, but this is the part of things I don't enjoy. So at this point in my career, I'm only doing things that I'm enjoying. So
good
manage
for you.
yourself, manage yourself. But I do help my regular clients, fixing things and etc., which is more troublesome actually, fixing things.
Yeah.
But then I enjoy those. It's kind of a challenging thing to do, and you get to learn a lot of things. But
Yeah.
most of the people I know, they either use main WP or managed WP, and there are a few who also use infinite WP. So
Right.
these are the like three. Infinite is like managed WP is more of a WordPress plugin that you install on a WordPress install, whereas infinite WP is actually an application that you install on your server. It's not
Yeah.
a WordPress plugin, so it's like a standalone application whereas managed WP is like it's served on your plate, like you just log in, everything is there for you, but then
Yeah.
you pay more because you got to pay per site per feature, so it can be expensive, but then less hassle, no server thing, nothing, everything they do it. So
Yeah. I started out using MainWP because I was hesitant to put my control panel, dashboard up in the, on the internet, because it's kind of you've got kind of the keys to the kingdom there. And
yeah,
you can run main WP on your local host and manage sites on the internet.
yeah, a lot of
But
people actually do it. They have a spare domain with them and they'll just use that domain to and they use that WordPress install just to manage. So that's
yeah,
how most people do it, and I think that's more leaner way to do it.
yeah, that's I moved to manage WP when I went on a long vacation. I went to visit my dad,
Mm-hmm.
and so I didn't want to not update my sites for so long. So I went to manage WP and used that for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But then Nathan Wrigley, he uses main WP, and I mentioned, aren't you nervous about having it online? And he says, oh, I just use two-factor authentication and lock it down. And so then I said, yeah, that makes sense. So I switched, and I'm liking that. I've been
Yeah,
kind of digging
but
into it a
to
lot.
be honest, whatever comes on internet, it can be hacked, it can be leaked. Nothing is secure on internet.
Yeah,
Let's be honest. With our not even billion-dollar companies can keep their secrets secure these days.
right.
So what's
Yeah.
the next one?
Oh, let's see. What else do we have? Well, in terms of themes, I use Astra
Hmm.
Pro and Page Builder Framework.
Okay, you use what is the use case of using Astra and not Page Builder Framework, and what is the use case of using Page Builder Framework theme and not Astra? Now you mentioned too, you are in a spot.
Yeah, now I'm on the spot. I use the Page Builder Framework for simpler sites.
Mm-hmm.
Astra has a lot more widgets and
Yeah,
things.
you just activate the pro version and you bam, there's so many things.
Yeah. The I think that I'm kind of curious what you think about this, but some people use Themer to create their whole site, or Elementor Pro. They do the
I
headers and footers and everything.
I do
And
that.
other people use a theme and just use the page builder and Themer for the content area. What do
To
you
be
do?
to be honest, when I started using Beaver Builder, I was using Genesis for almost 5-6 years. So I was in that framework, oh no, header and footer belongs to theme. So I at that time I was using Genesis, theme as a base and Beaver Builder on top of it, and only using it to build the page content. But that mindset shift happened when Beaver Themer came into the picture. Like earlier, a single post type layout was also the business area of the theme, right? But Beaver Themer changed it all, right?
Yeah.
So Beaver Themer actually opened the eyes to build the single post layout using a plugin and not depend on the theme. So I said, if I can do that, why not do header and footer with it? So
Yeah.
now the thing is, even though I use Astra on certain smaller projects, but if it's like an agency project or a big scope project, I prefer to use Beaver Builder theme, Beaver Builder plugin, that's the Beaver page builder, and Beaver themer, and sometimes Power Pack or UABB, but generally either of them is not there. But sometime when you have to use certain specific module, then I install it. But this is the basic tool structure that I use, and the header footers are done by Beaver Themer. But I am little fussy about schema markup and all that. Now when you use when you use Beaver Themer, it does adds the header schema, but it does miss out on the logo, organization, page titles, site title schema. So whenever I build a header using a Beaver Themer, instead of dragging the photo module, I actually drag the HTML module and put the schema markup manually with the manual URL for the photo, and which is the logo thing. So that's how I do it. And I know if I think from a mindset of Genesis user or a theme user, it's wrong. It's very wrong. But then but I've been using Beaver Themer ever since it came out, so I know what I'm doing. And in the end result, I do check my site on Google structured data to see what all things are missing. Now, if you're careful about how you're building, tools are tools. It all depends on you how you use it. So I know how to use it to make sure the end result is exactly same as it would be if I use a theme to control a single post layout or build the header and footer via theme rather than a page builder. But now I do it, and Beaver Builder people are a little careful. And I'm not bashing here about Elementor and all that, but I've seen certain sites made with Elementor. They don't give any importance to schema markup. Maybe mostly people don't give importance because they don't know. It's the lack of knowledge, and people are just, hey, it looks good, the header looks like a header, so we are done. But ask Google won't even know that's your header because your schema markup is missing.
We didn't talk about this with custom post types, but that's a thing could be a problem with your custom post types. I've had to build little plugins to output the schema myself from post types. It wasn't too hard. It took a couple days or something, and once you do it once, you can kind of do it. But with Toolset, when you are building your views, you can add the schema in, but most people don't think to do that.
Yeah,
And
it's mostly
you're
lack
right.
of knowledge.
It could be a real problem for you.
Yeah, because
So
you are building site in the front end, the client is seeing the site in the front end, and to be honest, majority of people who build sites, they don't do SEO services, right? So you give them benefit of doubt that you can err on this aspect, even though it's not. Everyone should learn these things at least on a surface level, because once you do it on a surface level, you will automatically dive deep into it and become little expert, I guess, because no one is expert in schema. Is a very wide topic. Even I'm not an expert at it, but I certainly know the basic schema which is required for a basic website, and that is more than enough. And just keeping your header footer schema there and your article body schema there, these three schemas are the most important. And guess what, most of sites don't even have those three, and still Google index them and try to make sense of them. God bless everyone, to be honest.
Now there's two kinds of schema. There's structural schema, which is like, what you're talking about, which is
the page.
And then there's content schema. So
Yeah.
sometimes an SEO tool, can help you with the content schema.
Yeah, content
If
schema
you
is
don't
something
have the
different.
structure there, then
Like
you're in trouble.
SEO
Yeah.
Press has it. Even there's a Schema Pro plugin from Astra guys. Even that can be used. That is like they would add an additional fields in there, and you will input it, and it will output that whole bunch of data wrapped with schema markup at the header part of your source code. But that's like, you know what, on just scratching the surface, it's just like they will add few custom fields to that. Like the plugin is adding those custom fields and you're inputting the data manually. So if it's like a recipe, page, or
it could be extra work.
Yeah, because they will add few fields like recipe time, recipe type, something like that, and that thing won't show on the front end, but it will show in the source code of your page under the header. That's what Google gonna read. Now the thing is, the schema is not for the person who's browsing your website. It's for Google and it's hardworking bots. So and those are invisible. So problem is these things are invisible. That's why they don't get talked much, to be honest. Even those SEO gurus who talk SEO, they don't really care about schema. I've not seen a lot of SEO gurus talk about schema because I don't know, it doesn't sound like an interesting topic, maybe because it's hidden. So that's there.
The other tools that I've used Beaver Builder is the only builder I've used to make websites.
You don't like the Elementor?
But, well, they just changed their license and they're now GPL. So I've decided that I'm going to try, I own it because I use it for testing plugins and, I do videos but so I'm going to actually use it for a site and, because just doing testing and whatnot, you don't really know. It's when you use it over the course of a few months or something is when you start to know if
So which is your recommended email marketing service? Do you use any?
I use MailChimp because it's easy.
I love that chimp.
It's easy. It's the easy one. It has a lot of support and everything.
And any upcoming tool or service that has got your attention besides the Elementor one?
Upcoming tool or service?
Gutenberg?
I guess it kind of has our attention. We can't avoid it.
Yeah. So you've got any other service in your periphery other than Gutenberg?
Not really right off.
Okay, cool. We'll wrap this episode here. Okay. But before we finish, why don't you tell people where can they find you?
Well, my website is webtng.com. And, I'm WebTNG on Twitter, and then just David McCan on Facebook. So awesome. You have a great Facebook site, website creators, and Kim Doyle has a good group there, and then I also hang out in the WP Builds group, and I think I've really enjoyed the Facebook community, so I'm probably there more than Twitter.
Cool. Just to recap for people who are listening or watching, David is mentioning about 3 awesome Facebook groups. One is called WP Builds. You can go to Facebook, search for it. The other is Content Creators Group. And third one is group that's run by me. It's called Web Creators Community. So amazing 3. It's good to hear your own Facebook group as amazing. So thank you.
Yeah, it is. Thank you.
Okay, David. It was amazing talking to you. Have a good day.
Good talking to you. Thank you.